Hi, this is Lori from Shoo Shoo Paper Art, and today I have these fun tri-fold window cards. One side just folds in and then folds out, so you have lots of space to write and some fun places to do extra little things. So one of the things about this is I only have 8.5 by 11 cardstock. If you have some 12 by 12, you could do these really easily without a tab because they're 4 inches wide. Now this one is more than 4 inches wide. I think it's 4 1/4 or so. So even the 12 by 12 won't work for that. There'll still be a tab. So I didn't want my tab to show, so that was kind of one of the important things about these cards. So let's get started. The first thing you'll need is a piece of cardstock, the length of the card that you want. So this one is 5.5 inches long, so my cardstock is 5.5 inches. And this is the full 8.5. These are 4-inch cards. We're going to score at 4 inches and at 8 inches, which will leave me 1/2 inch here for the tab. This card is 4 1/8, and so the tab will end up being a little bit shorter, but it still works. Okay, so once I have the scores done, I'm going to go ahead and fold on the score lines. Now this is 120-pound paper, but for the fold-in piece, I'm actually using 2 80-pound pieces of cardstock so that it will be less bulky. I want to hide my tab, so I need 2 layers. If I just put one piece on and the tab shows, then 120-pound paper is fine. But it's just too bulky to have 2 pieces of 120-pound cardstock. So I'm going to start by, this is 80-pound cardstock. I may have already said that. It's the size of the finished card. So it's 4 inches by 5.5 inches. And the first piece is just going to slip inside this tab, and the tab's going to adhere on top. So let's go ahead and get that glued down. The second piece of cardstock is going to be adhered to the top of the tab, sandwiching that tab in between these 2 pieces of cardstock. Now, one thing to note is that due to the scores and the folds, this at 4 inches is going to be just a little bit too long. So I just start trimming 1/8 of an inch at a time until it folds nicely. That's why I start with 4 inches, because I'm never quite sure exactly where I'll need to trim to. But that's one of the things that, to make this work, you'll need to trim this section just a little bit shorter. I used, to make the window of these 2 cards, I used inverted stitched scallop circles from Pink Fresh Studio. This makes such a pretty window. And I just used this main piece here, simply using tape to place it in where I want it on the front of the card, and then running it through my big shot. On the inside, I don't have to worry about anything because it's nice and pretty on the inside too. But this one, I have to do something a little bit differently. This is the rectangle scallop dies from Paper Sweeties. And this particular one is going to work a little bit differently. I had to make a liner inside to help this piece stay in place because it's cut out, whereas this window stays in the cardstock. It's not cut out of the cardstock. So this is easy to solve. I'll show you what I did with this piece. It'll look like this when it's cut out, although it'll be part of the card. This is just an example of what it'll look like. And this piece will be removed to make the window. So you just need the scallop piece in place. Now the problem is whatever you do to hold that scallop piece in place is going to show on the back. So you need a cover to hide how you're keeping this in place. So I just used one of my square Spellbinder dies, and this paper is cut to the size, actually a little tiny bit smaller, to the size of the finished card, and making a window. The window is about the same, slightly larger. I found that it didn't bother me to have that rim showing in there. Just make sure that I didn't put any adhesive, you know, on that part of the card. So I just used a couple little pieces of Scotch tape to hold that frame in place, making sure that the tape isn't all the way down in here where it's going to show through my cover. So once I had a couple of pieces of Scotch tape just holding that in place. Oops, can't get my tape cut. There we go. Then I just glued the frame to cover that area so it would look nicer when it's finished. Putting glue on the outside and then on the edge of the frame where it's not going to show, to be sure that it's held in place. You have a nice finished look. So that's how I solved the problem with this particular window. All right, so I'll go cut this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've run this through the Big Shot, and taking this part out will make the window. And let's take a look here at this card to see maybe some options of decoration. For this, I used this really pretty Plaid Stencil from the Stamp Market. I love how it looks. I just think that's so fun. And I used some of my favorite inks and ink colors from Fresh Ink. And let's see, these are mint and chamomile. You can see a little bit of the chamomile here. And French lavender. Oops, took the lid off. French lavender and pink lemonade. Aren't they pretty together? I think that's such a pretty color combination. And this one's fun because you can look through the window and see this really pretty, a peek at this really pretty Turnabout stamp from Concord and 9th. When you open it up, you can see, well, actually, I was going to say see the whole stamp, but that's not necessarily true. I cut it down to fit the flap. It's actually a larger stamp. This is it right here. If you haven't seen any of these Turnabout stamps, you might go and take a look. They're really cool. You can stamp them once, twice, 3 times, or 4 times, and it'll show you what they'll look like stamped each time. And now they come with these really cool guide lines, so you don't have to make your own. But that's what I used on the inside of this card, and they have some great videos on how to use these, so I'm not going to go into detail on that, but just to share with you how fun they are. Go take a look if you haven't seen them. I think they're really fun. The inside of the card has, actually this is the piece that came from the front of the card. You can see that here. And I actually stenciled this before I did the die cut window. And I actually went ahead and stenciled it onto the back, which looks kind of cool. Let me get folded back up. Looks kind of cool on the back, I think. Just a little bit of that plaid. Also on the inside is just a strip that says "My Dear Friend," and that is from Mega Greeting Stamps from Altenew. And I just heat embossed this and that is actually the French lavender fresh ink, and I just let it dry really well and then heat embossed on top of it. All right, let's take a look at the kitty ones. Okay, I love the little kitty. I think he's adorable. And that is the stamp set Purr-fect from MFT Stamps. And it's got all these cute kitties and a little bee and flowers and butterflies. So that is just a fun stamp set. I couldn't decide how I wanted to color the kitties, so I colored him a couple of different ways. And then I decided I liked both of them. So I went ahead and made a couple of cards. This one is the grid is actually a wood stamp that I've had for a long time from Impress Stamps, and they still have these actually. I use it quite a bit. It's nice and solid, kind of makes me feel nostalgic for all the wooden stamps I have. On the inside I just colored one of the other kitties, and it just says I love you. And this is also pink lemonade. And then I just stamped the sentiment onto it. And let's see, this one has the little fence, couple of the fence die cuts, and that's from an old paper tray ink set called Little Bitty Bird Editions. And added the flowers and the bee. This is just twisted citron. When I open it up, I've got a little circle panel of clouds, and that was really easy to do. I just made a panel the same size as my flap and laid that on top, and then used a border from, is it Fancy Frames from Lawn Fawn, and one of my makeup brushes, and some tumbled glass. For the inside of this card, I just carried the theme forward. I was kind of thinking that, you know, he was jumping up in the sky to catch the butterfly, and then he caught it, or the butterfly caught him. So this is just the same colors. It's twisted citron and tumbled glass for the inside. I think something else you could do that would be really cute is to, you know, suspend something here in the window. That would be fun to do. So anyway, I hope this has given you some ideas on making some tri-fold window cards. Thank you for joining me. And remember, you can always find me at shoo-shoo-paperart.com.